All right, well, welcome back to Exhaust Sports Auto. My name is Kevin, and we are here to check out the 2020 Infiniti QX60. Now, who do we have to thank for this little opportunity? Well, it is actually European Performance in Cary, North Carolina. So, all their information is going to be in the description box below because they are quite an interesting used car dealership because they specialize in Porsches. So if you're interested in a Porsche, definitely check them out because they have a whole service center dedicated to that as well as other vehicles. So that's where this vehicle is located. It's a 2020 model year of an Infiniti, and it is the pure trim model with all-wheel drive. So it's stickered for about $46,000, but now it's here for about $37,000. So it's lost about $10,000 off of its MSRP sticker price, and it has less than 3,000 miles on it. So with that established, if you're interested in purchasing this vehicle, definitely check out their website. It'll be linked down below. And of course, it's under factory warranty, all that good stuff. So with that established, let's just get this bad boy out on the road and see what's what. Now, I'm sure you've heard everything about Infiniti and Nissan right now. You know, like they're going out of business, all this stuff, like they're useless now. I never really understood this because I've driven a few Infiniti vehicles and I absolutely loved the way that they drove. I'll be completely honest with you. They were, to me, pretty much quality objects for the most part. I mean, yeah, they're not perfect, but for what this is, you know, like when I saw the sticker price of this car, I was absolutely shocked. Like I was like, what a great car for the price, you know? Let's see here. And I'm sure another reason why these cars are not quite as coveted is because these things use a CVT transmission, and that was one of the things I want to debunk here, actually, because I've driven a few modern day CVTs, and honestly, I quite like them, and I'm going to see if this is going to be one of them. And so far, I think it is going to be one of those CVTs I'm going to like. But most importantly, the looks of this thing, right? That's what I want to briefly start out with. This is also one of the better looking kind of crossover SUVs in this market. It looks so substantial and prestigious, you know, compared to, you know, especially for this price, the way that it's kind of aged right now. It's truly impressive what you get for the money. You know, the looks, all this stuff. You do look like a big ball and boss in this thing. I do think this is one of their top selling vehicles. It is technically a 3-row, but it's really not. I mean, I would just fold down the 3rd row and just use it as a, you know, nice big 2-row vehicle with a lot of space in the back. I'll get to that in the interior segment. However, I'm driving this car, right? You know, exterior side, you know, you have eyes, you can decide for yourself. You know, it's not too ostentatious or anything like that. It's the correct amount of bling, if you will. But most important, this drive, right? I'm driving this car, doing about the speed limit. You know what? It's quiet, it's composed. I have no real issues driving this car. You know what I'm saying? When you give it a little something, it technically downshifts, if you will, and it kind of gives you the right gearing. This thing is the kind of, you know, 3.5 liter V6 that we all know and love with Infiniti, and these things were kind of retuned back in 2018 to create more power. I believe it's about like 290 horsepower and about like 275 pounds-feet of torque, something like that. And it's raining here a little bit, but that's okay. This thing does weigh quite a bit, you know, 4,500 pounds, but, you know, this is that big kind of traditional quality driving SUV, if you will, luxury SUV from Japan, essentially. So there's something strange about the way that this thing drives. You know, I'm about to test out the handling here in a bit, but the steering is absolutely sublime. You know, no issues with steering whatsoever. This thing is fitted with double pane glass. That's part of the reason why it's so damn quiet in here. And this thing is running on 18-inch wheels, which is great. It's a pure model. It's one of the more base models, but it does come with all-wheel drive, which is great. Makes it a great kind of a, you know, daily driver, if you will. You don't have to worry about inclement weather or anything like that, so that's pretty good. But it's a relatively smooth driving experience. I get it's a brand new car, has less than 3,000 miles on it. However, you know, I've been in higher mileage Infiniti cars, and they've aged extremely well, like the G37s and stuff like that. Nice little quality whips. So far, driving this car, it's been extremely easy. It's pretty much like a fishbowl in here, you know, good sight lines and all that stuff. I like the seating position. I do wish that the rear view mirror was a little bit bigger. That's the only thing. But driving wise, I mean, it's a nice, smooth operating vehicle. Now, it's not a race car or anything like that, as we're about to see. You know, it is 4,500 pounds. It does have pretty much effortless thrust. You know, it's just like that naturally aspirated V6 that you're not getting anymore. You know, it's always like this 2-liter, 2.5 liter turbo 4 crap that's just never going to be as smooth as a V6. And obviously, you know, Nissan and Infiniti, they do it best with the V6s, of course. There's no paddle shifters or anything like that with this vehicle, and I mean, why would there be? But you know, I'm liking the steering wheel. I'm liking the ride quality, of course. You know, it's a big, heavyweight vehicle, 4,500 pounds. It's going to help soak up the potholes and all that good stuff, of course. Really just effortless thrust, you know, with all these idiots out on the road. You know, it's maneuvering itself extremely well. I have no issues with the power with this thing. Let's see here, about to test out some of that handling here. You know, just chuck that in here. You know, it is the 18s, so, you know, it's not like the big boy rims or anything like that. But let me tell you something. This thing, it'll handle a corner just fine. And no, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but what Infiniti's done here, you know, with the way that the power kind of builds naturally and progressively because it's naturally aspirated, it's a good, like, strong sensation of power, if you will, if that makes sense. And that's what I really like about these naturally aspirated motors as a whole. The trend, of course, is those stupid turbo things, but I've driven so many cars now, you know, Hondas, you know, like the Honda Passport that utilized a V6, the Acura RX 350, I drove a 2020 version of that, and I'm going to make a few comparisons here with that vehicle because, you know, it's a direct competitor to that car. However, I will say this is far cheaper than that vehicle. I do think that the RX had a more substantial feel to it as a whole, you know, like the body was far more rigid. However, this is a little bit more of that big plush sensation, similar to like a, you know, Hyundai Palisade or a Kia Telluride, something like that. It's just like that more traditional, larger vehicle, if you will. It's not quite as tight and crisp as an RX, but it's going more for that plush sensation. That's kind of surprising because Infiniti is a great driving vehicle. You know, they pride themselves in that. However, this, they kind of went more towards that comfort side, and I appreciate that because it's more so of a daily driver. You have to keep in mind this thing is rolling on those 18s, which is really helping out with the ride quality of this particular vehicle, and it still looks good on this car, which is what I like. It doesn't look stupid like you're running on hubcaps or anything like that, so that's good. This is about as quiet as an RX 350, which is great. You know, that was a very quiet vehicle. However, I feel like the tire noise or road noise is actually a little bit reduced with this car. It's actually a little bit less than the RX because I feel like the tires that they use on this is a superior tire, you know, that Michelin touring tire, if you will. This thing is rocking, you know, some strut-based suspension up front, multi-link in the rear, you know, typical for this class. But it's just like, you know, number one, you know, first and foremost, it's that price point that's got me impressed with this thing. You know, about 36 grand or whatever. That is a phenomenal price for what you are getting with the looks, being a 2020 car with a factory warranty and all that. That's what I really appreciate with these things. You know, buying these things used, it makes a lot of sense, you know, versus like a Lexus, which does actually hold a little bit more value, so it is a little bit more expensive to purchase that used. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Brakes are just really progressive but strong. You know, it does something similar to the Genesis G80 where it kind of hides the braking force from you, so you can be hard on the brakes but the passengers won't really feel that. It's a very plush vehicle for occupants essentially, which is what I really like about it. Another thing that's very underrated and something that people don't really mention is this thing is really lowering my blood pressure. You know, it's a nice, calm, sedate vehicle. You know, you can give it some gas and it really reacts extremely well. Get back on the brakes, no issues, you know. This is about the same speed as an RX, I feel like, you know, despite this weighing a little bit more. This is a pretty strong engine, you know. Nissan Infiniti always does a pretty good job with the V6s, making them feel pretty strong. So if you're kind of deterred away from the CVT of this vehicle, don't be, because I don't mind the CVT whatsoever. You know, Nissan, you know, they've been doing the CVT thing for a while, and at first it did piss me off. I was like, why do they keep doing this? But they refined it to a point where it's just like, it's almost better than some automatics, I feel like. I said this about Kia Hyundai vehicles as well, where they do a great job with the CVTs. No real torque steer coming from this thing, which I like that. And once again, I'm about to test out that handling here in a bit before we end this little driving review off. There's something really annoying about driving this car that I noticed. I have no real issues with it, if you will. Let's see here, what do we have? And just chucking this thing. See, look at that. It's just, it handles the mass so well. Again, smooth shifts from that CVT. No real issues. I really did my thing with this. I mean, no real issues here. Steering smooth, easy to park. It doesn't have the best like turning circle. That's the only thing I've noticed with this car. So that can be a bit annoying, but you know, nice little backup cameras, all that good stuff. A little bit of a driving conclusion before we get into the interior segment. So I drove this car. I have no real issues. I think the biggest thing deterring people from these kind of Nissan Infiniti products is that CVT. CVT is smooth, nice and smooth, no issues there. I don't mind that whatsoever. In fact, it's actually doing a better job than most traditional automatics will. So that's a big plus point. The only things I didn't like driving this thing, you know, like I just mentioned here, you know, turning circle, not the best with this car. It is also the all-wheel drive, so please do keep that in mind. This little rear view mirror could have been a little bit bigger, but otherwise, this thing is big, quiet, composed, nice riding vehicle, big plush automobile. It's a good daily driver, so if that's what you're looking for, this is going to cut it for you. Is it superior to an RX? If you're just looking for that absolute pure comfort, this is going to do it for a lot of people. The RX is actually a tad bit of a better handling vehicle because the chassis is a little bit stiffer. However, this still handles itself in a strange way extremely well. That 4,500 pounds, you just saw me chuck it in there. No drama, great grip from the Michelin Touring tires. Handling itself extremely well. It's not the fastest thing in the world, that's the other thing, but I think a lot of people, if you got in here and you drove this, you'll really appreciate the way that the naturally aspirated power kind of comes on, builds up. It's fun to rev this thing out, essentially. So that's what I like about it. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. It's a big, comfortable automobile. It has that look to it as well, you know, that big kind of plush sensation to the vehicle. Even the exterior kind of accentuates that. So that established, let's get into the interior. Now, the interior of this car, it's not the most flashy thing in the world, you know what I'm saying? You also have a traditional kind of a handbrake, you know, foot operated, so there is that. The interior, it's rather bland, you know, they have like this kind of carbon fiber plastic thing going all about, but let me tell you something, it's solid, it's well put together. I don't really have too many issues with the build quality of this thing, and, you know, traditional Infiniti cars of the past, if that has anything to do with the way the build quality continued today, these things should age pretty well. You know, it's simplistic design. You know, this is whole kind of door handle thing. Very kind of elaborate design here going on. You know, I've never really seen that before, but it's nothing super crazy going on here. What I do like is the automatic one-touch up and down window switches. That's great. Very convenient. Again, you still have like this little carbon fiber thing going around. At least it's not piano black plastic, so I do like that. I will say an equivalent RX definitely has a superior looking, more impressive looking interior to this. This is kind of in line with like an Acura, if you will, but I think as a driving utensil, this is going to be far superior to an Acura, at least like their MDXs and stuff anyway. But everything's nice, soft touch, you know, big plush automobile, you know, push button stop start, they love doing that, of course. And you know, good decent amount of storage space in here as well, you know, both with the center armrest, dual opening, you know what I'm saying, and very nice plush thing to be. Seating position is great, like I mentioned in the driving segment, but the seats are also so damn plush in here. I don't think this is a real leather similar to a Lexus, and I like that. That's why these seats are going to age really well, because it's not like a real thing. They have like this nice little white piping thing going around, this little silver piping thing. I like that. All the buttons, all the switch gear has like a nice sensation, nice quality sensation to everything here, so I do appreciate that as well. Again, not the most flashiest thing in the world. It's just simple and it works. Starts up smooth. You don't even hear the engine, honestly. Nice little displays, graphics, and all that good stuff going on with it. One thing I've noticed with this interior space, I don't like how the climate control is actually integrated with the touchscreen. Or I don't even know if this is a touchscreen. It is a touchscreen. Anyway, you have to look up at the screen every time you kind of adjust the temperature or the fan speed and all that stuff. You do have physical buttons for that, but you have to look up at the touchscreen to see what's going on there. So that's the only kind of flaw I found operating that. Otherwise, you have kind of very simplistic old school buttons here, very easy to navigate, so that's pretty good. Shows you some good information, of course. It does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, of course, so that's pretty nice. You have a traditional CD player in here, you know, nice little dying thing. You know, if you really pride yourself in music, well, there you go. The audio system does sound pretty decent. Not the best thing in the world, but it's pretty good for the most part. You know, it'll definitely get the point across. That's not an issue here. You have some nice little steering wheel controls here. The whole steering wheel itself, I love the size of this thing. It's like the perfect size. I like the shape of it. It's a very like nice thing to grip onto and pilot, if you will. It feels nice and solid and sturdy. You know, the nice little ergonomic touches there. You have automatic headlights, of course, and you have other nice little old school touches, you know, like there's no stupid digital gear selecting. There's a nice traditional thing, which I really appreciate. Nice two big cup holders. You have the USBs, charging things here as well in the middle. Nice big cup holder for the door pocket space. I do like that as well. Glove box is also a rather decent size. So actually that's a huge glove box. That thing really opens up too, so you know, storage space is not even going to remotely be an issue. You know, the step in height with these kind of SUVs that are like the perfect size, you have to like contort your body to get in here, so that's pretty good. Obviously this vehicle does come with a sunroof, but headroom is not an issue. Good adjustability in the seats. I could definitely fit behind myself, you know, getting in and out isn't too bad. I've noticed that, you know, when I am sitting in the back, you know, I have plenty of space back there, that's not the issue, but like my knees are like sitting up a little bit higher, so that's the one thing I noticed there. However, you can easily fit 5 people back there, you know, even in the middle seat, that's not an issue. Again, the seats are super plush back there, very soft, supple seats, so that's why you can sit in the middle as well, so that's great. And you do have a third row. I did not sit back there. Don't even make me. You can definitely fit kids back there if you need to. But the best thing to do is just fold down those 2 seats and just enjoy all that storage space in the back. It is massive. It's a 200-inch vehicle as a whole, so it's a massive automobile. You have plenty of space to put things for 5 people going a long journey, long trip. That's great. So that's fantastic. That's just a quick look of the 2020 Infiniti QX60. Let me know what you think about this vehicle. If there are any owners of this vehicle, please let me know how it's held up, either new, used, whatever. If you're interested in purchasing this vehicle, definitely hit up European Performance. It's pretty much a bargain at this point. A lot of the normal kind of Toyotas, Hondas, and stuff like that are kind of 3-row SUVs about the same size as this. They're pretty much the exact same price as this, like fully loaded. But because it has like a little under 3,000 miles on it, it is like depreciated $10,000. So if you want to take advantage of that and the factory warranty that comes with this vehicle, please do hit up European Performance and check out the rest of their inventory as well. So with that established, thank you again for watching this review. Take care and goodbye.